So going to be a special review this week. Going to be talking about the latest Magi as well as the latest Nanatsu no Taizai, aka the 7 Deadly Sins chapter, because first of all, that Magi, Judal, and Hakuryuu on some crazy shit, and the ending of the arc and 100 chapters in for the 7 Deadly Sins. So if you don't want to be spoiled after the Magi review, you can stop, because I'll do the Magi review first, and then we'll get to Sins. Let's go. So this chapter of Magi was definitely, first of all, giving us a lot of exposition as to how Hakuryuu obtained this power. And it kind of made me wonder, are we going to be able to get to see how Judal obtained that power, you know, the third eye and all that shit? Because I thought it was that he obtained it by killing Ren Gyoku, and after they killed her, maybe he found out her secret. So at some given point, I do want to find out how he was able to get that. But this chapter, first of all, gave deep characterization to both of them, and kind of why are they fucked up? Why are they evil? And how did they fall into depravity? Well, Judal was kind of already fucked up, and he was already into depravity. But Hakuryuu, we really seen his descent in this chapter, because he just went all fucking in. And it also kind of gave us an in-depth look as to why Hakuryuu was so bitter. First of all, his sister never stood up to the army, never stood up to anybody, even though she knew all the fucked up things that was going on. And he doesn't really see it in a way that she was just looking for peace. It wasn't that she was like, oh, I agree with their methods, I agree with their ideals. It was just that she was not trying to start shit and not trying to create chaos. But then at the same time, you can kind of see that while he doesn't understand it, because it's like, regardless of what, that's not right, he does understand what he needs to do to be good. I think both of them understand legitimately, Hakuryuu and Judal. Judal understood that if he left out Thorman and went with Aladdin and them, that's the right thing to do. That's the path that he should walk. But once again, this inner demon, and I gotta keep saying it, I honestly think that it has to be David. David manifested himself into probably the Black Rook, and that's how everything came about with it. Because where else with this voice, what is this voice? Could this voice be the manifestation of Il Elah as well? It's like, there's two things that it could be. It could be either Il Elah finally speaking up and like basically trying to conquer the world with this deep and dark fucked up voice, or it could be David. I'm kind of leaning more towards David, because David had a plan, and this could be his plan coming to fruition. And this was one of the first times where we really got to see why Judal is so mad, what really he's upset about. Like, first of all, he is just absolutely pissed off at the fact that the, organization, Al Thurman, controlled him all of his life. They didn't give him any choices. He lost his parents. So you can definitely see that these are the things that fuck with him, and these are the reasons why he's like, I don't give a fuck, I love chaos, because he's just so disgusted with everything that he's had to do. And honestly, I don't blame him for being bitter, especially the bit where he was like, why not Scheherazade or Yunnan or even you, Aladdin? Why only me? I would think the same thing if everyone else got to live their lives, even though he doesn't necessarily realize what shit Aladdin had to go through. Ultimately, I would feel the exact same way, like, why everyone else gets to live scot-free except me. But since this takes place prior to the summit and prior to him hearing what Aladdin been through, I guess he's looking at it at this point like, oh, it's only me. But he didn't know, and he probably finds out obviously later on because he goes to the summit and hears it. But at this particular point, he had no idea what Aladdin had to go through. And I'm imagining the other Magi have been through some shit. I'm imagining Yunnan felt lonely, Scheherazade, they probably went through some shit, but he didn't know about Aladdin. And I mean, if he would have known about Aladdin, because again, this is before the summit, so he didn't know, maybe he would have thought a little bit differently, because I mean, Aladdin went through a lot of fucked up shit, probably even worse than him, because at the end of the day, Aladdin was alone in a dungeon with a giant fucking jinn that wouldn't even talk to him. He lost his parents, he lost his homeland, he was a fucking speck of jizz for like 1,000 years. So if anybody can relate to going through some pain and some fucked up choices, it's Aladdin. If only Judal would have heard that shit prior to this. And Judal and Hakuryuu at this point seem like they're going to be brothers in bitterness, because they're both just like, everyone betrayed us and we're going to go that route. And while, yeah, it's fucked up, I ultimately can see why they're like that. I can't completely say, man, they're just completely fucked up pieces of shit, fucked up. No. Hakuryuu, I understand where he's coming from with it, and Judal as well. Might seem a little bit selfish, it might come across as like some scumbag shit, but at the end of the day, they also have this voice of, the Black Rook or whatever it may be, probably David or Il Elah, telling them, don't forgive them. We also got their goal in this one, that they basically want to destroy the world and make it anew. So we kind of got a lot, if you really think about it, regarding this chapter. We got their goal, we got into the characterization, exactly what are their motives. There's a couple different things that we got out of this chapter that are pretty big for Judal and Hakuryuu. But I ain't gonna lie, I was flipping the fuck out when, at the end of the day, even though it was only illusions, both of them were just like, I don't give a fuck. Judal went and fucking just destroyed the shit out of Aladdin, but really the one that got me was Hakuryuu slashing his sister and Morgiana, and not only that, saying, I'm gonna kill the real Morgiana. So we've seen that not only has he fallen into complete depravity, he's a fucking asshole and a scumbag. And the one thing that kind of got me feeling a little bit like, Hakuryuu, why are you feeling so friend zone right now? Why are you so salty about that friend zone when he said following Alibaba's ideals blindly? Like, yo, stop it. You just mad because you think that she picked Alibaba over you. Let's keep it real, bro. Now, there's a little bit of controversy surrounding what Judal did, kind of taking Bilal, and I kind of want to understand a little bit more of how he did that, how he got the third eye. I think we definitely need an explanation in due time regarding, you know, how he was able to do that. Where did this power come from that he could basically snatch up Jinn? And you could definitely see the turning point for Judal as well with his character and everything is, I think he really wanted someone to be with him and someone to share his depravity and how lonely he is as well. Like, I honestly think a big portion of why they're like this as well is they're lonely. I mean, Judal, he's never once talked like this, and he's like, now submit yourself to my king. And it's like, you never like bigged up anybody to call someone your king. Yeah, you could definitely see that Judal is like probably very happy for once that he's no longer alone and he has someone to share his agony. I guess you know what they say, misery needs company. And the fact that Hakuryuu doesn't really care about being king is like, oh, if it results in that and I have to, sure, I'll do it, but I just really want to accomplish what I set out to do. So with him saying that, definitely there's going to be a conflict, because if it comes to some given point where he's like, I already did what I need to do, I don't really want to become king, and Judal is like, yo, motherfucker, we set out on this quest. You're becoming king. It'll kind of be a conflict at this point. So I think down the road, those words might kind of have an impact on their relationship. Because let's be real here, it's only a matter of time until one of them does something to piss the other one off and it's going to go all haywire. And at this point, if you think about it, because Sinbad and Cohen have incredible armies, but Hakuryuu is slowly coming up there because he's the third person to conquer more than one dungeon. So ultimately, you got to think, he's pretty much going to be the third power and ultimately the third force if they have some sort of tribe battle or whatever. And at the same time, this also signifies, Alibaba, step your game up. You need to do something. You can't just sit around. And like, it kind of makes me look at Alibaba a little bit like, yo, you kind of on some bum status if you think about it. This dude right here, him and Judal are going and conquering dungeons, gathering power, doing every fucking thing in their power to basically accomplish their goal. And you're kind of just sitting there, well, I guess I'll follow this dude or I'll follow that dude. No, you need to do what Hakuryuu is doing. Not in an evil way necessarily, but ultimately go and conquer some dungeons, gather up some power, and make your own empire, and then go back and take Balbad. With all that being said, very good chapter, getting a lot into Judal and Hakuryuu, kind of the first time really diving into everything that's wrong with these people and what their goal is and kind of why they're like this. So definitely, I gotta say, very good stuff. I'm gonna give this one 8.5 out of 10. I was just like shocked as fuck to see Hakuryuu has finally fallen into salt when he wants to kill the real Morgiana. But let me know what you guys thought of this chapter. First of all, what do you think about their ideals and kind of why they're pissed off and everything, Judal and Hakuryuu? Do you sympathize with them? Do you understand them? Or do you think that they're kind of wrong? I mean, at the end of the day, one of the only things that I'm kind of looking at like, you're a little bit salty there is when basically Hakuryuu was like following Alibaba's ideals. No, you mad because she ain't following your D. And your thoughts on this, like, they've definitely fallen into some darkness, but at the end of the day, to have this duo of power, gonna fucking bring a crazy war. Yokuin never stood a chance, I guess. And now for the 7 Deadly Sins, aka Nanatsu no Taizai, chapter 100. It's been a long time since I've reviewed the Taizai manga. I think the last chapter I did was like 67 when Diane was getting fucking destroyed or whatever, but it's been a while and I'm finally back because I mean, it's chapter 100. I gotta talk about 100. Come on, it's been 100 chapters. That's a huge milestone. And just to briefly talk about what happened ultimately, a lot of these fights and everything, I definitely feel as though the Hendricksen fight, for the most part, it was a pretty awesome fight. The way it ended with Meliodas kind of pulling out that technique at the last minute, some people are going to call it BS. I thought it was alright. I thought it was something, you know, like, you know, typical shonen stuff like, oh man, my final ability, you know, fucked me up. And ultimately it was a lot better than it could have been. It could have been just like, you know, my might, my friends. I'd rather have something like that where he gets super fucked up to ultimately defeat the villain. And to be honest with you, Hendricksen was giving me a little bit of a Madara vibe with the power that he had obtained and the way he was looking and acting and everything. I was like, yo, this dude is kind of like a mini Madara there. I honestly wish that's how Madara ultimately went out instead of, well, hermaphrodite. To be honest with you, if I was the king, I would have went about it a different way. I wouldn't have executed everyone because that's the first mistake you make when you come into power. Like, if you've seen 3 Kingdoms for that matter, you never really go all the way and, like, you know, just punish them completely, but to say, oh no, you're just not going to get any day offs, it's like, they're going to look at you like you're soft, and who's to say that they won't rebel again in the future? So I definitely think he was a little bit too nice in that aspect. A little bit more of a punishment would have sufficed, but ultimately, I guess, at the end of the day, they want to show that he's a benevolent ruler, and he's not a fucked up guy. But those words that he did say at the end was kind of like, very strong in the sense that regardless of what you do, I may forgive you and everything, but your sins never go away. And that kind of also ties into, the 7 deadly sins themselves. It's kind of like your sins are going to stay there. And it kind of makes me wonder a little bit about, like, especially Meliodas and everything, his sin. But ultimately, it was like strong words at the end, but still should have been a little bit of a heavier punishment in my opinion. And in all honesty, from where I last reviewed to now, it's just been crazy. Guild Thunder finding out what his ultimate goal has been, and just a lot about that character is total 180, to be honest with you. I never saw it coming from that particular point, and just seeing Guild Thunder was like, holy shit, he put in work. And in this chapter, you kind of just see him like, I did what I did for the army. So it was good to just see all the crazy twists with Guild Thunder. And again, I honestly didn't think that he was going to turn out to be this way. And I know this is kind of old already, but I just quickly want to give my thoughts on the whole Hellbrum thing. I honestly thought, and I'm being completely honest, I thought Hellbrum was going to be the final villain. I never saw it being that he was King's friend and all that crazy shit that happened. I honestly thought, because if you go back to the tournament arc, when Hellbrum had everyone's abilities, he took everyone's power to fight Meliodas, I thought like, yo, this Hellbrum guy, no one can beat him. He's going to eventually overthrow Hendricksen and everything and become the leader. So when he went out, it was tier-worthy in a way, kind of like, the whole bond with King and everything. I still was kind of like, damn, man. Hellbrum, fuck. But hands down, the moment that definitely got to me, and I don't really get like this of random moments, but I kind of got a little bit of like, holy shit, man. The feels hit me when Bond said, everyone I like leaves me, and he's just there like regretting what happened with Hawk. I was like, oh my god, this is why I love Bond. This is why Bond is my favorite character in the 7 Deadly Sins. He's just so fucking awesome. Like, one line like that, and it's like, I know all the pain that he's been through and losing that chick and everything. It was just like, damn. And seriously, fuck Galder. Like, at the end of the day, I can't wait till Galder gets that character development so he can think back and say, damn, I was fucked up, because what he said about, oh yeah, it wasn't really a loss losing Hawk and everything. I'm like, really, motherfucker? Really? Fuck you. Then Merlin stepping in. You could definitely see that Merlin and Galder have some sort of relationship. Merlin was the one that created the armor for Galder and kind of sticking up for Galder as well. There's some sort of bond that they both have. But overall, I was just like, Galder, eat it. But now this is part of the chapter that I wasn't fond of. I didn't really like it. And I'm sure we'll get an explanation. And if it's a good one, then I'll change my mind. But as of right now, Hawk's revival, it would have been better if it was just done when we discovered Elizabeth's power, if she would have revived him. I would have been more satisfied with that than him just getting up and like he's a little pig now. So I don't know if he has reincarnation abilities or what's up with that. But in all honesty, I think Hawk should have just stayed dead. And either we get a new mascot, maybe Hawk had a baby around there or something. But the way it was just done, it was kind of like, oh man, with that line that we got from Bond and everything, the mood, it just felt so perfect. And then when he gets up, he's like, oh, I'm fine again. It just felt very shonen, and it just kind of threw me off, and I wasn't feeling it again. If we get an explanation later on, what's up with that, I'll be fine if it's a good one. But ultimately, as of right now, I'm like, oh, should have stayed dead, bro. And then with the ending, with Meliodas hugging Elizabeth and getting that line, basically this is the end of their journey or whatever, it's making me think, since the manga is continuing afterward, there's probably going to be a whole different mission. Elizabeth might not be in it for a while, and then later on she'll get roped into it again. But ultimately, it's like, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if this is where the manga was supposed to end. And I'm being serious. I honestly think that this is where it was going to end. We were supposed to get introduced to the final sin that we haven't really, gotten into yet a long time ago. And this was how it was going to all wrap up. But since, money talks, and at the end of the day, Taizai is blowing the fuck up, the mangaka was kind of like, oh, I'm expanding this bad boy. And I think I heard a couple people hit me up about, like, in an interview, he said he's going for like 40 volumes. So we're basically only a fourth of the way in, basically, like 10 chapters of volume and shit like that. I'm like, damn. But I definitely get it that there's still more mystery, and there's still, a couple things that we need to be sorted. So it can't completely end here, but it looks like it should have ended here with like a little bit extra things that was left out. But I guess, at the end of the day, if it's going to be good stuff, I'm looking forward to it. In all honesty, it just felt like a really nice ending, except the Hawk thing. I think if Hawk's death would have stayed permanent, this would have been like the perfect way to end the manga. But as it stands right now, it was fine. And ultimately, at the end of the day, this first 100 chapters is like completed a crazy adventure, and I'm surprised that in 100 chapters he was able to do it. I'm really hoping the next time we see Arthur, that Arthur is just absolutely badass and gives them a run for their money. And I mean, there's still the demons and everything, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. So overall, nice little ending, and ultimately I'm just like, where's it going to go from here? But let me know what you thought about that chapter. What do you think about the ending, the fight with Hendricksen, all the things that I haven't talked about in the past, like 20-something, 30 chapters or whatever. What do you think about Hawk's revival? Again, I don't like it. I want a really good explanation as to what the fuck he's doing here. And I would have preferred, honestly, if Elizabeth was the one that brought him back. And do you think that the manga should have ended right here? But that's all I have for this one. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed, if you could do so as well, that'd be awesome. I'm ForneverWorld. And as always, people, have an awesome day.